Okay, so have you ever run across one of those story ideas that's just like completely out there?
Oh, yeah, all the time.
You know what I mean? And
Absolutely.
you're like, how
Especially in science fiction. It's like,
Yeah.
how could they even...
how did they come up with that?
Right.
Okay, so get this. In this Star Trek Voyager episode,
Okay.
it's called Faces.
I know this one.
You know it.
Yeah.
Okay, so B'Elanna Torres.
Half human, half Klingon.
Exactly. And she's already a fascinating character.
Oh, totally full of conflict.
So much going on. And then in this episode, she literally gets split into two separate beings.
Whoa.
One fully human and one fully Klingon.
Okay, so we're going deep on this one.
We're going deep, and we've got like a bunch of sources to really unpack this.
Right on me.
All right, so we've got this awesome in-depth review from Jammer's Reviews.
Always a good source.
Yeah, they always have great insights.
Yeah.
We've got the full episode transcript itself.
I'd have that.
Of course, and then to get like the behind-the-scenes scoop. Yeah, we've got some stuff from Memory Alpha.
Nice.
So we are ready to dive into this mind-bending scenario.
I am so ready.
So what strikes me right away is how this like completely bizarre premise, this splitting her into two people, it really lets us look directly at these inner conflicts, that I think we all experience to some degree.
Oh, absolutely. It's like taking this internal struggle that so many of us have and making it literally real.
Right. And for you, with your, interest in like those unexpected situations and how they reveal things.
Oh, yeah, those aha moments.
Yeah, this deep dive. It's like a gold mine.
Can't wait.
Because it's like B'Elanna's internal tug of war between human and Klingon.
Yeah.
It's all out in the open.
I love it when science fiction does that.
Me too.
Takes an idea and just runs with it.
Yeah. And so our goal here is to like really dissect the heart of this episode.
Sounds good.
Figure out, what does this crazy transformation tell us about who B'Elanna really is at her core?
Okay.
We're going to look at the ethical, kind of tightropes that the story walks.
Always interesting in Star Trek.
Right, because there's always these ethical dilemmas.
Yeah.
And then we'll even sprinkle in some of those behind-the-scenes stories.
I love that stuff.
That make this episode so unique.
It really is a one-of-a-kind episode.
It is. All right, so to set the stage, Voyager's cruising along.
And
they're on their way to pick up an away team.
Standard procedure.
Right. So the team is Paris Torres and this other lieutenant named Durst. And they were checking out these magnesite formations on a planet called Avery the Third.
Magnesite formations. That's pretty specific.
I know, right? But that's what they were doing.
All right, so standard away mission. What could go wrong?
Famous last words.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because when they got to make contact, the away team's gone.
Vanished.
Poof. And to make matters worse, the geological scans are showing these like really weird shifts.
Shifts? Like what kind of shifts?
In the cave systems where the team was working.
Oh, so the caves themselves are like changing?
Yeah, it's not just a delay.
Yeah,
it's something way weirder.
Okay, this is not good.
No, it's not. So a search party sets out, led by Chakotay, of course.
The first officer on the scene?
Always. And he's got Tuvok and Kim with him.
Logical and tech savvy. That's a good team.
Right. They need all the help they can get. And they're using these modified subspace transponders.
Now, those are handy.
Yeah, Kim actually calls them breadcrumbs.
Cute!
It is kind of cute. So they're hoping to maintain a signal and, find the missing crew.
It's like a trail of digital crumbs leading them to their friends.
Exactly. But buckle up, because here's where things get really strange.
Already lay it on me.
All right, so B'Elanna wakes up.
Okay.
And she's in this Vidiian laboratory.
The Vidiians notorious for their organ harvesting.
Oh, yeah, not a good place to wake up.
Nope.
And she looks down at herself, and she's completely Klingon.
Wait, what? No trace of human left?
None. She even describes it in the episode. She says, I felt strong, powerful, invincible.
Wow. So she's embracing the Klingon side fully now?
It seems that way. And then this Vidiian surgeon shows up.
Salon, creepy dude.
Oh, yeah, he's like the embodiment of creepy. And he explains that he's reconstituted her genome.
Reconstituted her genome like a genetic remix.
Yeah, he's got this device called a genetron.
Sounds very high-tech.
It is, and he claims he can isolate and restructure genetic material.
That is both fascinating and terrifying.
It really is. So he used it to extract and purify her Klingon DNA.
Creating a pure Klingon specimen.
That's his words.
Wow, talk about playing God.
Right, and what's even crazier is his motivation for doing all of this.
Okay, I'm dying to know why.
So the Vidiians are desperately fighting this disease called the phage.
It's like their ultimate enemy, right?
Yeah, it's devastating their people. And Sulan has this theory.
Hit me with it.
He thinks that Klingon DNA, and with its natural resilience...
Tryptophans are tough.
They are. He thinks it might hold the key to curing the phage.
Interesting. So he's basically using B'Elanna as a lab rat.
Pretty much, yeah. It's a huge gamble.
Driven by desperation.
Exactly. They're grasping at straws.
But it's interesting, though, that they have this advanced understanding of genetics.
Oh, yeah. Their technology is amazing.
But it's just applied in this really disturbing way.
Yeah, and to really test his theory, he's already infected the Klingon B'Elanna with the phage.
Seriously, talk about a trial by fire.
No kidding. But meanwhile...
Oh, there's more.
Always Paris and Durst. They're not having a picnic either.
Let me guess, they're stuck in a Vidiian spa getting pampered.
Not quite. They're being held prisoner with a bunch of other people.
Oh, no?
Yeah, and they're basically being forced to work in mines.
That's awful.
Yeah, it's because the phage has weakened the Vidiians so much.
They can't even do their own dirty work.
Exactly. They need these other species to do the heavy lifting for them.
It's sad that their society has been crippled by this disease.
It really is. They're desperate, and it's leading them to do some pretty terrible things.
Yeah, it makes you wonder how far they're willing to go.
Right. And to make matters even worse.
It gets worse.
Oh, yeah, there's this Talaxian prisoner.
Talaxians are those orange guys with the big ears, right?
Yeah, you got it. So this guy, he's been a prisoner for 6 years.
6 years? That's a long time.
I know, and he tells this heartbreaking story about how 23 people from his ship were taken.
And he's the only one left.
Yeah, it's really grim.
Gosh, that paints a pretty bleak picture of life under the Vidiians.
Yeah, it does. It shows how far their reach extends and how ruthless they can be.
Okay, so we've got Klingon B'Elanna infected with the phage.
Yep.
Paris and Durst stuck in a Vidiian mine, and this poor Talaxian who's seen way too much.
That's a lot, but just wait because there's another twist.
Another one I can't handle much more.
Okay, so picture this human B'Elanna suddenly appears in the barracks with Paris and the other prisoners.
Hey, whoa. Back up a sec.
I know, it's crazy, right?
How did human B'Elanna get there?
Swan, that creepy Vidiian surgeon, he performed the same genetic extraction on her.
So now there's two of them running around.
Exactly. He removed her Klingon DNA, and now there's a purely human version of her.
This is like identity theft on a whole other level.
Right. It's like her inner conflict is literally playing out before our eyes.
Okay, my mind is officially blown.
Yeah, this is where the episode really gets into some deep stuff.
I'm ready.
Okay. So the human B'Elanna, she immediately feels weak and kind of sick.
Which makes sense. She's missing a big part of herself.
Right. And it's a huge contrast to her usual, strength and toughness.
That's like all the qualities that she associates with her Klingon side are just gone.
And what's interesting?
What?
This actually makes sense from a biological standpoint.
Really?
Yeah. Klingons are known for their physical resilience. Even their blood clots faster.
Wow, that's amazing.
I know, right? So it's like taking away that Klingon DNA. It's like taking away a big part of her physical strength.
So it's not just psychological, it's also physical.
Exactly. It's both.
Yeah.
And then we get this super revealing scene.
Tell me.
Human B'Elanna. She confides in Paris. And she talks about how, as a kid, she used to try to hide her Klingon forehead ridges.
Oh, wow. She was ashamed of that part of herself.
Yeah. It's really sad that she wanted to fit in on this human colony she grew up on.
So her human side was dominant even back then.
It seems that way. And her dad, he was Klingon, and he left when she was young.
Oh, so that adds another layer of complexity.
Yeah, she even mentions that she thought maybe her Klingon appearance was the reason he left.
That's so heartbreaking.
I know, and it explains so much about her struggle with her identity.
Yeah, she spent so much of her life trying to suppress her Klingon side.
And now here she is, literally separated from it.
It's like all her fears have come true.
So now we have these two B'Elannas, navigating this bizarre situation.
Two sides of the same coin.
And they do it in totally different ways.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
So the Klingon B'Elanna.
Let me guess she's not taking this lying down.
Nope. Even though she's restrained at first, she manages to break free.
Classic Klingon move.
And she's using her strength and even a bit of cunning.
I love it.
She even tries to manipulate Sulan the surgeon.
Oh, how does she do that?
By playing into any potential stereotypes he might have about Klingons.
So she's using his prejudices against him.
Exactly. She's smart.
She is.
But meanwhile, the human B'Elanna who's stuck in the barracks,
yeah,
she's obviously weaker physically, but she's trying to use her intellect.
Brains over brawn.
Right. She tries to access a Vidiian console.
Maybe hack her way out.
Maybe it really shows how they each have different strengths.
And they each approach problems in their own way.
Yeah, it's this great contrast.
I bet they're going to have to team up at some point.
You know it, and they do.
Called it.
The Klingon B'Elanna, in true Klingon fashion, she rescues the human B'Elanna from the guards.
You go, girl.
I know, right?
So they're together now.
Yeah, they end up in this cave. And this is where they really have to confront their differences.
This is the moment of truth.
It is.
Okay, what happens?
The human B'Elanna, she's scared, understandably.
Who wouldn't be?
And she's focused on escaping strategically.
Makes sense.
She wants to use the Vidiian computer system to deactivate the force field.
Smart thinking.
But the Klingon B'Elanna...
She probably wants to punch her way out.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's all about the direct, forceful approach.
So we've got logic versus instinct.
It's a classic battle.
And it's playing out right there in that cave.
Exactly.
This is where the episode really gets to the core of B'Elanna's identity, right?
Yeah, they're forced to confront these parts of themselves that they've either tried to hide or deny.
It's like their internal struggle has become external.
Yeah, and it's fascinating to watch.
So what happens next?
Well, there's this really powerful moment where the human B'Elanna admits to feeling like a coward without her Klingon DNA.
Wow, she's realizing how much strength she drew from that side of herself.
Yeah, it's a huge realization for her.
The very thing she tried to suppress is what made her brave.
And the Klingon B'Elanna, she's not having any of that self-doubt.
I bet she's like, snap out of it.
She pretty much tells the human B'Elanna to acknowledge her strength and admit that she needs her.
It's like she's saying, hey, I'm a part of you and you need to accept that.
Exactly. And it's not just about brute force.
It's deeper than that.
Yeah, it's about recognizing the value of her Klingon side.
It's like a plea for integration, even though they're still separated.
I think you're right.
So what's Voyager doing during all of this?
Well, they're not just sitting around.
I didn't think so.
They discover this force field around the Vidiian complex.
Another obstacle.
Yeah, and it's similar to one they've encountered before, but it's been modified to repel phasers.
The Vidiians are stepping up their game.
They're learning from their past encounters.
Smart but annoying.
Very real. But luckily, Kim.
Our boy Kim.
Yeah, he spots these tiny microfissures in the force field.
Microfissures like little cracks.
Exactly. And they're fleeting.
Tricky.
Yeah. But it gives them an idea.
Let me guess they're going to send someone through one of those cracks.
They decide to send Chakotay disguised as a Vidiian.
And who's going to pull off that disguise?
The EMH, of course.
The holographic doctor, always up for a challenge.
He loves it. And so they transport Chakotay through one of these tiny openings.
That's got to be risky.
Oh, it's super risky, but they have to try. And it pays off.
He finds them.
He finds Paris, at least.
A small victory, but a victory nonetheless.
Yeah, it gives them a foothold inside the complex.
Okay, so the stage is set for the final showdown.
Oh, yeah. It's coming, and it's intense.
Lay it on me.
All right, so Klingon and human B'Elanna, they have to work together to try and disable the force field.
They need to combine their strengths.
They do. And it's this uneasy alliance, but they make it work.
It's like the two sides of B'Elanna finally coming together.
In a way, yeah. But then Sulan shows up.
Oh.
And this is where it gets really disturbing.
Okay, brace myself.
He has grafted Durst's face onto his own.
What? That's horrifying.
I know it's supposed to be, and he thinks this is going to make B'Elanna cooperate.
What is wrong with this guy?
He's completely warped. The review we read, it uses the term gruesome fetishism.
That's about right.
Yeah, it shows how messed up the Vidiians are.
They're so desperate, and their sense of beauty is so twisted.
Yeah, it's one of the most disturbing scenes in the whole episode.
So what happens next?
Well, the human B'Elanna, she manages to deactivate the force field.
They're almost home free.
But just as they're about to escape, Sulan aims his weapon at her.
Oh, no.
And the Klingon B'Elanna, she jumps in front of the energy beam.
No.
Yeah, she sacrifices herself to save her human counterpart.
That's both heroic and heartbreaking.
It is, and her last words are about courage and honor.
So Klingon.
Right to the end.
So what happens after that?
Well, Voyager beams everyone back.
Including the other prisoners.
Right, of course.
Shit.
And the doctor, he explains to the surviving B'Elanna that her human cells are compromised.
From the separation.
Yeah. And he says she needs Klingon DNA to survive.
So she needs to be whole again.
Exactly. And he's going to reintegrate it using tissue from her deceased Klingon half.
So in a way, she's getting a part of herself back.
And she reflects on the whole experience. You know, she says that while she felt a sense of peace as a purely human being.
Interesting.
Yeah, but she also felt incomplete.
She realizes that she can't be whole without both sides.
And she acknowledges the strength and the bravery of her Klingon half.
It's like she's finally accepting herself for who she is.
And she even says that she'll spend the rest of her life fighting with her.
So the inner battle continues.
It does. But now she's aware of it, and she's ready to face it.
That's growth.
It is, and it makes you think about your own inner struggles, right?
It does make you wonder what would happen if we could separate those conflicting parts of ourselves.
Exactly, and what would we learn?
It's a fascinating thought experiment.
It is.
So are there any interesting behind-the-scenes stories about this episode?
Oh, yeah, tons. Apparently, the original idea was way simpler.
Really?
Yeah, B'Elanna just walked into a machine and got split.
No Vidiians.
Nope, they were added later to make the science seem more plausible.
Which is kind of funny, considering how outlandish the whole premise is.
Yeah, but that's science fiction for you.
Gotta suspend disbelief.
Exactly. And get this, the executive producers, they weren't even that keen on the idea at first.
No way.
Yeah, they thought it was too tired and too obvious.
Wow, I'm glad they changed their minds.
Me too, because it's such a great episode.
It is.
And Roxann Dawson, who plays B'Elanna, she found this episode to be a huge acting challenge.
I can imagine playing two versions of the same character.
Yeah, she actually treated them as completely separate characters.
Wow, that's dedication.
She even had two scripts labeled the Klingon and the human.
That's awesome.
And you know what's amazing?
What?
Her own mother could tell the difference between the two B'Elannas just by her performance.
Wow, that's impressive.
It is. She really nailed it.
So this episode, it really digs into some heavy themes, right?
Oh, yeah. Self-acceptance, the complexities of our identities, and, that there's value in all parts of ourselves.
Well, even the parts we don't like.
Exactly.
I think that's a really important message.
Me too. And the dynamic between Sulan and the Klingon B'Elanna, that Beauty and the Beast thing.
Yeah, that was kind of creepy.
Yeah, it was intentional, though.
Really?
Yeah, the writers wanted to explore that idea.
Huh. I guess it makes sense considering how obsessed Sulan is with beauty and perfection.
Yeah, he's a fascinating and disturbing character.
He really is.
And that scene where he grafts Durst's face onto his own.
Don't remind me.
I know it's awful, but it was supposed to be shocking.
It definitely was.
The writers wanted to show just how warped the Vidiians' perceptions are.
Yeah, they really succeeded there.
So for, people listening, what do you think the big takeaway is from this episode?
I think it shows that our identities are way more complex than we often realize.
Yeah, and that we have to learn to accept all parts of ourselves.
Even the parts that we might try to hide or deny.
Exactly. It's like B'Elanna, she had to literally confront her separated selves to realize that she needed both of them to be whole.
And it's not always easy to accept those parts of ourselves.
It's not, but it's necessary.
Yeah, and I think this episode also shows that our weaknesses can sometimes be our strengths in disguise.
That's a good point. The human B'Elanna, she thought she was weak without her Klingon side.
Yeah, but she discovered that she was also more compassionate and understanding.
Right, so it's all about balance.
Finding the balance between all the different parts of ourselves.
Yeah, and I love that the episode doesn't give us a neat and tidy resolution.
It leaves us with questions.
And it makes us think.
Which is what good science fiction should do.
Exactly. It should challenge our assumptions and make us look at the world in new ways.
So what's your final thought for our listeners?
I want them to think about this. What if we could physically separate the conflicting parts of our own identities?
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah, what would emerge and what would we learn about ourselves in the process?
It's like a thought experiment.
It is, and I think it can lead to some really interesting insights.
I think you're right.
So that's Faces, folks.
What a wild ride.
It was, and it's just one example of the amazing storytelling that Star Trek is known for.
Yeah, they really tackled some deep issues in that episode.
They did, and they did it in a way that was both entertaining and thought-provoking.
And that's why we love Star Trek.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
My pleasure.
We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll see you next time.
Live long and prosper.
And may the Force be with you.
You're mixing your fandoms.
I know. I can't help myself.
You're such a nerd.
I'm proud of it.